Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today, as you can see from the title, we are going to be delving into another blood-boiling topic. Here I have my assistant Hoppy. Hoppy's gonna be here for emotional support because this topic makes me angry, but also severely disappointed, but also sad. Get something that makes you feel better. If it's coffee, if it's vodka, whatever, just prepare yourself. So, many of you probably have heard of, or at least know the name Chris Watts. Chris Watts is a piece of human garbage who I think actually, and I'm not even kidding, makes a lot of people think twice about whether they support the death sentence. Let's talk a little bit about Chris Watts, his family, and what he did before we get to the real points of fuck up. So, Christopher Watts was a father of two and was married to a woman called Shannon Watts. They had two daughters. One was called Bella, she was 4, and one was called Celeste, or Cece for short, and she was 3. Christopher and Shannon were married for 6 years. They lived in Colorado and bought a house in 2013, but however ended up filing for bankruptcy in 2015. Christopher Watts worked at a petroleum company called Anadarko Petroleum, while his wife worked in an MLM type place that was called Level. So this story began on August 13th, 2013, when Shannon came back from a business trip late, almost at 2 a.m., and Chris was at home with the children. Later that day, Shannon and the children were reported missing by the same colleague who actually gave Shannon a ride home the previous night. It's important to note that at this point, Shannon was 15 weeks pregnant and she missed an OBGYN appointment, which is kind of what got the alarm bells going. After the missed OBGYN appointment, Shannon supposedly had a business meeting that she also missed, so people began to get concerned as she wasn't answering text messages or phone calls. The colleague, Nicole Atkinson, ended up going to Shannon's place, knocked on the door. Nobody was answering, so then the police was called and they also contacted Chris. When Chris arrives home, he acts very strangely in my opinion. I strongly suggest watching Jim Can't Swim's videos. It gives you all of the information and you get to see a lot of footage with Chris in it, down to his confession and everything. The way he behaved at this specific point was uncanny. Like, he was trying to act like he was worried, but he was also trying to act calm, like he didn't just get caught doing something maybe. It was just very strange.
What's Chris's phone number?
Chris's phone number is...
Hey Chris, Officer Coonrod for the police department. Pretty good. So, do you have any idea where your wife is? Right. Well, my concern is her car's here. They're saying she is diabetic. I don't want her... If she's upstairs and can't respond. Okay. About how far out are you? Okay. Alright. He said like 5 minutes. Scott, how you doing?
How's it going?
So this is the only vehicle she would have?
Only one that, yeah.
She would drive? Okay. What time do you leave the day?
What time I leave there? Come
No, here.
Usually between 5:30 and 6.
Alright. And was Shannon here then?
Yes. Yeah, she's still in bed.
Does she usually watch the kids, or you have daycare watch them? Or?
She usually watches the kids if they're not at school.
Okay. You guys have any kind of issues, marital issues, or?
We're going through separation.
You are? And how's that going?
It's going
Civil for the most
civil,
part, or?
Yeah. Takes up close to here.
No.
Rocking back and forth. He never loads his stuff in and out of the garage ever.
Right.
To be completely honest with you, my wife and I were kind of wondering when she was on vacation if something happened, because I've heard them full out screaming at each other at the top of their lungs, and he gets crazy.
Does he? And that's pretty recently?
Yeah. He doesn't look worried. He looks like he's trying to cover his tracks. He's normally quiet, real subdued. He's over here telling you 3 times what he took out, what he did. He's very, he never talks. So the fact that he's over here blabbing his mouth makes me kind of suspicious.
While looking, the police found Shannon's purse, her phone, her wedding ring, and her keys inside. So when Chris was brought in for questioning, he denied it. He then failed the polygraph and confessed after speaking to his father, though the interesting thing is that initially he claimed that his wife had actually killed his children, and because he was so angry at his wife, he killed her. So when Watts said that Shannon actually strangled his kids, he said it was due to the fact that he had asked for a separation because he was actually having an affair and he wanted the marriage to end. Supposedly then Shannon got mad and in a fit of rage strangled his children. That obviously turned out to not be true. The bodies were then found on the property of the petroleum company he worked at that time. So I've seen a lot of reports that were connecting this to family annihilation or familicide, which is a type of murder or murder-suicide in which a perpetrator kills multiple close family members in quick succession, most often children, relatives, spouse, siblings, or parents. In half the cases, the killer then kills themselves in a murder-suicide. So a lot of people were connecting this to Chris. Obviously, he did not end up killing himself, but he did half of the definition, let's say. So on November 6th, Chris Watts ended up pleading guilty. Interestingly enough, the death penalty wasn't put forward because Shannon's family didn't want any further death. On November 19th, Watts was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Let's get to the real disgusting thing. If you were on Twitter, you might have come across this, and I'm deeply sorry because it was an experience. So there was this article that came out on ABC News where we find out the more gory details of Chris Watts' murderous actions. So apparently, for one, when he was strangling his wife, she never fought back, which in itself scares the shit out of me because I'm wondering, you know, why wouldn't you fight back unless your life is so terrible that you'd rather go? Obviously, I don't know what she was thinking, but I just think that's very sad. Watts also told the investigators that his 4-year-old daughter, Bella, walked into his bedroom holding her blanket and asked what was wrong with her mom. He told her that Shannon didn't feel well. So then Watts wrapped his wife face down in a bedsheet and tried to carry her down the stairs, but lost his grip and ended up pulling her down the stairs. This is all so nightmarish. I can't. Like, the fact that children witnessed this is just so angering to me. Obviously, the fact that they were killed is angering in itself, but the fact that their last moments were like this just adds a new layer of grim. I'm just saying, if I ever met someone like Chris Watts in my life, it wouldn't go well for him. So then Bella watched her father drag her mother down the stairs and began to cry and asked what's wrong with mommy. Watts brings his truck by the house, puts his wife's body in the back seat. So apparently he then put both daughters in the back seat. At this point, Shannon was on the floorboard and they were on the bench seat, and Bella asked, "Is mommy okay?" So apparently Bella and Celeste each had a blanket with them, and Celeste had a stuffed animal, which it's hard to forget that these are children, but it's like there are all these elements of like purity / vulnerability that come in that I feel like make me even more angry, because like I associate children with stuffed animals and like, you know, having their like favorite blanket or whatever. So the fact that until these last grim moments, their childhood was so apparent, it couldn't be any more stereotypical in a way where it's like they have a toy, they have their blanket. This makes me so sad. Okay. He drove to the oil site where he used to work, and during the ride, the daughters dozed off and they were laying in each other's laps just to make this even more sad. Watts told the police he took Shannon's body out of the truck and laid her on the ground near where he ultimately buried her. If you have a box of tissues by you, I strongly suggest you get it now, because doing this before I get my period is just a bad idea. So Bella and Celeste, who were in the truck, asked him, "What are you doing to mommy?" And he apparently can't remember what he said to them, conveniently. So Watts told the police that he put Celeste's blue Yankees blanket over her head and strangled her in the back seat. Bella was sitting next to Celeste, so he literally strangled one of his daughters in front of the other daughter. So after strangling Celeste, he took Celeste's body to the oil tank and dropped her inside it. And then after that, to make this even more chilling and disgusting, he goes back to the truck and Bella asks him, "Is the same thing gonna happen to me as Cece?" I just can't fathom how any person genuinely could hear that and not like snap back to reality or break down in tears or something. Like, I just can't imagine that falling on deaf ears. Like, having your own child just ask you if they're gonna get murdered like their siblings. Like, I don't understand anything of what he did, but I'm just saying, you know, sometimes you can just see that someone's in this like fury and like they're so disconnected from reality, but it's like in this moment, I feel like it would have made anyone snap back into reality, unless he's that far gone or unless he's that big of a fucking psycho dickhead. But damn, that's sad. That's really sad. A big part of what makes murder cases more easy to talk about a lot of the times is that we don't know these details, and when you do know these details, it becomes more difficult to talk about, even for me as a complete outsider who's completely unrelated, because it's just so horrifying and disgusting that even me, a person who doesn't have that much faith in humanity, is like, damn. So then he ended up strangling Bella with the same blanket he strangled Celeste with. Bella fought back though, and Bella's last words were, "Daddy, no." He then dropped her body into a separate oil tank. This guy is obviously the worst type of human being, but what to me makes it stranger and stranger is when I see his action on camera, you know, both when he's first talking to the policeman when they come to the house when Shannon disappeared, but also when he's talking to policemen inside the interrogation room. It's just, it seems like no one is there.
When I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like, she wasn't here. Kids weren't here. I have no idea like where they went. Right now it's, you got K9 units, the sheriff's department, everybody's like, they're doing their best right now to figure out like if they can get a scent. If she wasn't here, like where did she go? Like once I got here, it was like, all right, who can I call? I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times just to say, you know, what's going on? Like if she's vanished, like I want her back so bad. I want those kids back so bad. Right now, I don't even want to just like throw anything out there. Like I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. Last night, I wanted that knock on the door. I wanted to see these kids run in, just barrel rush me and just give me a hug and knock me on the ground. That's why last night was just horrible. I couldn't do it. I'm hoping that somebody sees something or somebody knows something and comes forward.
It seems like he's just trying to manipulate people, but inside no one is there. There's no heart. It just seems like robotic and creepy. Actually, the reason that Shannon's ring was found at the house was calculated. It's not like she actually took off her ring or something like that. No, he took it off her cold, dead hands, left it on the counter so it would have looked like, oh, well, she clearly got tired of this man and she left him or something, because it's, you know, rings are such a big symbol. It's just convenient, right? So then the reason why apparently Chris didn't immediately say, yeah, it was me, I did it, was that he couldn't admit to himself what he'd done, so he couldn't admit it to the police. I don't think it's about not admitting it to yourself as much as now you have to own up for all the bullshit you did, and it's gonna get ugly, and God knows what's gonna happen to you in prison. They don't like child molesters, and they don't like child killers, so I hope you're in general pop. Do you think that he was all along cold and calculated, or do you think something kind of like just snapped in his brain? Because I keep going back and forth between he was like this all along to, okay, something must have happened, because why would this happen just randomly after 6 years? Unless there's more that we don't know of, which I'm sure there is. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and let's get right into the fan art.